Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, welcome back to the Corner of Truth and Courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. Let me begin by reminding you, next week, a week from Friday, we begin our mini conferences in British Columbia. We're going to be doing this next Friday, October 18th, and next Saturday, October 19th. On Friday, we're going to be in Victoria, and we're meeting at 6 p.m. in the evening, going to 9. These are going to be 3-hour meetings, and we're going to be at the Capital City Baptist Church. They're going to be hosting our meeting. So if you're in the area, in Victoria, we'd love to see you. And we're going to be having a meeting the next morning, Lord willing, if I catch that early ferry getting across back over to the mainland. And we're going to be in Surrey at Grace Baptist Church starting at 10 o'clock, going to 1 p.m. And that's going to be held at the Grace Baptist Church in Surrey. Now, the meeting, they're free to attend. I hope you'll bring a friend, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you. I've got some very exciting news to share with our radio listeners, and I am sitting on this until the meeting. I'm going to let you guys hear the news first, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you some things that are developing for our ministry here at Fortress of Faith. And I want to say thank you so much to all of those of you who continue to support our ministry, and it's a joy to be able to serve you on the air. It's a blessing to do this. We've now been on the air since 2011. I believe God is just about to give us some great more years ahead. I've been warning for over a decade now that judgment is coming to our country. I believe it's coming because of our national sins. And I don't believe that we can continue in our national sins and just simply expect God to bless us. Like yesterday, I was talking about this very thing, but I want to kind of get into some more particulars that I think could bring our nation to the precipice. In fact, I fear that our country is running out of time. We really have no one to blame for our demise other than a lot of our stupidity. I said this for a long time. I don't think that there's a nation out there who has the army, the ability, the weapons to be able to take America out. I believe we still have, although it's not as strong as it used to be. The morale of our military is certainly lower than it's ever been. But I still think that we have a formidable force that will protect our nation from anyone trying to destroy it. But I don't think that we need a foreign enemy to do that. We're doing a good enough job all by ourselves. And I think there's some trigger situations that are on the horizon that could send our nation into a civil war, perhaps. You know, I'm not a prophet, nor son of a prophet, and I don't know exactly what is ahead, but I do believe that the division and the sin of our nation is so great that God will allow us to be so divided that the glorious nation that we know as the United States of America will no longer be united, and will possibly break down into 3 or 4 different countries. And there'll be the divided states of America. And I want you to consider the consequences. The consequences will be devastating. Our federal government will, and our Constitution and our rights, will likely come to an end. And by the way, what we understand about Bible prophecy is simply the fact that there'll be one day the rising up of an international leader, and that international leader will govern the world as a despot. He will be in control. He will be the law. he'll be above the law, and anything he says will go. And that is the leadership of the Antichrist, and he will rule the world that way. You cannot have a world ruler if the American Constitution still exists, because the Constitution would forbid the nation of America to be ruled that way. It has to be done away with. Eventually, somehow, some way, it will come to an end. And we could be coming to that very precipice right now to prepare us for that. I've asked this question to a few people. Quite honestly, I don't think anyone knows the answer. I certainly don't know the answer. But I fear that the answer would lead our nation into great division. What if, about 12 weeks ago now, the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, what if that turned out to be a success? What if he was assassinated? There's an assassination of a promising contender for the office of president, and he's taken out. Prior to that, we did not have a vice president pick. It would have brought to the end the bid for the Republican Party to put forth a candidate against the Democrats, and therefore it would have been a shoo-in for the Democratic Party had that happened. Do you think that the half of the country, because we're pretty much divided down the line, do you think that the other half of the nation that lost their contender would just roll their thumbs and sit idle? Or would that have sparked a revolution, a fight, a civil war? What if they were successful of jailing the presidential candidate? I mean, they've tried everything to keep him out. They try to keep him off the ballot. We'll get to that in a minute. Using the 14th Amendment, Section 3, to say he is an insurrectionist, even though he's never been charged with the crime of insurrection. They have tried to take January 6th of a few years back when he was protesting what he believed, and many of us do, that the election was not fair or held properly, and evidence was out there that needed to be examined before the vote was certified. And all they were doing was protesting, not insurrection. There were bad actors at that rally. I have preacher friends that were there at the rally, and they marched down from the mall where the rally was to the Congress. So they were coming down from one end, and one of my preacher friends was there, and he and I talked about this. He said, "Tom, there were people coming around from the other side of the Congress. These people were not at the rally. They came dressed in battlement gear. I mean, they had helmets on. You could tell they came to create trouble. These were not the people at the rally. These were bad actors that showed up and tried to intermix themselves with the MAGA crowd. And then these people were starting to pull and remove the barriers. And my preacher friend got into a scuffle and a struggle with one of these guys, trying to keep the barrier in place. But it was ripped out of his hands by these bad actors. How many of these people came in? We don't know. How many of them infiltrated? That could have been Antifa, for all we know, that put on MAGA hats and all that kind of stuff. And what do? They created a scene to make Trump and the Republicans look bad. And then the Democrats are trying to hang that on them. Now, here's what I'm hearing. This is what worries me. I am hearing from some insiders, and of course, I try to be careful not to bring some of this stuff out there without qualifying it, and I can't qualify it. I can't give a lot of support to it. So please take this with a pinch of salt. But it is an example of what I'm trying to say, that our nation could be thrown into chaos in, just a few things that could happen. And one of the things that's beginning to brew is that they're beginning to see, the Democrats are beginning to see that Trump's probably going to win, that they can't keep him from winning. But they are hoping to take the House and still have enough people in the House to take over the House that the Democrats will not certify the vote of President Trump on the grounds that he is an insurrectionist and therefore not qualified to become president. Again, no court has ever charged him with the crime of being an insurrectionist. There's a lot of question over what really happened January 6th, and the so-called evidence that has been put forth has now all disappeared, apparently, not at the hands of the Republicans, but at the hands of the Democrats that were making these charges, because the evidence really wasn't able to stand in a court of law, and that's been conveniently removed. And any video that was not helpful to the thing they tried to erase. But they're going to charge him with insurrection without a court case and not certify the election. By the way, guess who has to certify this upcoming election? Who has that duty? The vice president. Who's the current vice president? Kamala. So if Kamala loses the election to Trump, she has to be the one that initiates the certification of the vote that will actually put Trump in power. But the rumor is that the Democrats they will burn. I'm also hearing this. They would rather burn America before they let Trump back in. They hate him so much. And one of the things that will happen, and I know this from some other sources, that last time when Trump was president, he did not realize that there were so many bureaucratic jobs that he had the power to change these jobs, to put the right people in them. And he didn't know, he was new to the political game, and a lot of that stuff was missed. And so therefore he was fighting and fighting every day because these people were working against his efforts as president to get things done. We now know we have the power to remove them and to replace them with thousands and thousands. So thousands of bureaucrats are going to lose their jobs, and they don't want that. And they're going to lose their power, they're going to lose their control, and they'll let America burn first, is what I'm hearing, before they let Trump become president. What does that mean? Again, if these things come to pass, I hope they don't, but I hope you'll see how fragile our country is. What's the point in all this? America, we need God. Our solution is not going to be political. Our need is for a national revival. But our political scene is so divided, we may not have a country. We need to pray. We need to pray for God's aid in what's coming in the next few months. That's it for today. Hope you'll join us again next week at the Corner of Truth and Courage. God bless you.